Have you ever wondered why, even with so much knowledge, so many courses, so many attempts, your financial life remains stuck, as if something invisible was holding back your achievements before they could blossom? It's not for lack of effort. You've dedicated yourself. You've read books. You've tried to change your habits, save money, work more, think positively. But the truth is that there is a silence between desire and achievement, a silence that almost no one has the courage to face. In this space between what you want and what you live, there lies a secret that has been hidden, distorted, and stifled for generations. A secret that Andrew Carnegie revealed to Napoleon Hill, and that few have truly understood. Wealth is not born from what you do. It springs from what you vibrate while you do it. And this difference, apparently subtle, changes everything. For decades, we were led to believe that the path to prosperity was made only of effort, discipline, and strategy. But history is full of exhausted people who gave it their all and still remain broken, inside and out. And that is why today, here, now, we need to open a safe space to talk about what almost no one talks about what is behind the scarcity that insists on repeating itself, even when the intention is good. Even when the desire is sincere. There is a reason why knowledge, however powerful it may be, does not generate wealth when the mind vibrates out of alignment with the frequency of abundance. Because knowing is one thing, but being is another. And most people are trying to manifest wealth with a mind that still vibrates fear, scarcity, comparison, and haste. They are planting seeds with the earth, closed, dry, wounded, and no matter how much they water, nothing blooms. Carnegie said that true wealth is a state of consciousness. It is not a technique. It is not a tool. It is an internal frequency, a vibrational climate that few access because it requires more than positive thinking. It requires healing the relationship with deserving. It requires looking at the blockages that operate in the silence of the unconscious. It requires stopping repeating the old cycle, wanting a lot, but vibrating doubt, working hard, but carrying the fear of failure, talking about prosperity, but feeling ashamed to dream. In this video, we will walk together through this hidden territory. We will open the black box that hides the real reason why so many good, hard-working, spiritual people still live in scarcity. We will look deeply into the energy field, the conditioned mind, the forgotten emotions, and the vibrational patterns that keep us stuck in the same place, even when everything inside us asks for change. The metaphor of the locked seed is more real than it seems, because the potential is there, the idea already exists, the willpower is clear, but without the right mental and vibrational climate, nothing will sprout. The soil does not respond to hope, it responds to coherence. And most people still live trying to manifest wealth while carrying an unconscious full of scarcity, guilt, haste, and self-demand. You are not broken, you are blocked. And what we are going to reveal here may not be comfortable, but it can be liberating. Because once you understand what really sabotages your prosperity, you can no longer live the same way. You start to see, to feel, to change. And life, inevitably, responds. This is an invitation, a vibrational, emotional, spiritual invitation for you to dive in with truth, with surrender, with presence. Throughout this video, we will go through 20 invisible layers that separate you from the wealth that already exists within your field. Not in a hurry, not with magic formulas, but with awareness, with clarity, and with the courage to change from the inside out. If this introduction touched something in you, write in the comments, I am ready to open my frequency to abundance. Because the first step is to make this choice. Now let's move on. The path is just beginning. Not the silent error of vibrating scarcity in an attempt to attract wealth. You say you want to prosper. You say you want abundance. But what you vibrate, silently, without realizing it, is lack, fear, urgency, impatience. You pray for blessings, but deep down inside you feel anxiety, frustration, and distrust. And that is what the universe hears. The universe does not respond to what you desire. It responds to who you are, what you feel, what you emanate. And that is why so many people dedicate themselves, study, work, and still feel that life is not moving forward. Because behind every action, behind every intention, there is a vibrational field, invisible but decisive. You can repeat prosperity affirmations every day. You can visualize your ideal future, make dream maps, plan your next steps. But if, while doing all this, you vibrate at the frequency of fear of failure, you're moving away from exactly what you want to attract. It seems unfair, but it is deeply revealing because it shows that the key was never in the techniques. The key was always the vibrational coherence between intention and emotion. This is the most common mistake and the most invisible. Trying to attract wealth with a soul that has become accustomed to expecting the worst. Trying to vibrate abundance with a body that still carries the tensions of scarcity. And this is not your fault. This is inherited. It is conditioning. It is unconscious protection. Many times, this frequency of scarcity does not even come from the present. It was shaped in childhood, when you saw your parents struggling, when you felt like you couldn't ask for what you wanted, when you learned, silently, that money was a source of stress, pain, or guilt. And since then, something inside you has learned to survive with little, even though you want a lot. And here's the deeper point. The field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you're at peace with, what your body accepts as normal. And for many, scarcity has become a familiar place, almost comfortable, a vibrational safety zone. As contradictory as it may seem, there are parts of you that are not yet ready to deal with the energy of abundance. That's why, when you try to attract wealth without first healing these internal patterns, you activate a conflict, a noise between what you ask for and what you vibrate. And this noise, silent, is what prevents manifestation, because there is no manifestation without coherence. True wealth begins when you stop trying to force a new reality and begin to reprogram the frequency at which you exist. Not in a hurry, not in desperation, but with presence, with compassion, and with the courage to look at what's hidden within you, not to judge, but to release. It's not about wanting more. It's about vibrating differently. Because as long as you continue vibrating scarcity, even unconsciously, life will continue to reflect it. And this is not a punishment. It is an opportunity, a calling, a reminder that everything begins in the invisible. Everything begins within. And that is where true transformation begins. Why most people confuse desire with vibrational frequency. Desire is easy. It is human. From a young age, we learn to want. We want things, people, experiences. We want to change our lives, achieve goals, win internal battles. But there is an almost invisible distance between desire and vibration. And this distance is what prevents most manifestations. You can desire a new reality with all your heart. But if your vibration is stuck in fear, insecurity, comparison, or haste, the universe does not feel the desire. It feels the lack, it feels the imbalance, and it responds to what is strongest in you, not to what you say you want. Desire is mental, vibration is emotional. Desire can be clear, conscious, but vibration is older. It is made up of past experiences, emotional memories, and deep-rooted beliefs that operate unseen. And that is why so many good people, full of desire, continue to feel stuck, because they are asking with their minds, but vibrating with fear. It is necessary to understand, with honesty, that wanting something does not mean being in alignment with it. You may want love, but vibrate abandonment. You may want wealth, but vibrate rejection. You may want peace, but vibrate urgency. And the field does not respond to what is said. It responds to what is experienced internally. This confusion between wanting and vibrating creates deep frustration. Because the person feels that they are doing everything right. They are asking, they are visualizing, they are waiting, but nothing happens. And when nothing happens, they doubt themselves. They doubt their spirituality. They doubt their own ability. And they begin to shut up, to give up, to think that perhaps it is not for them. But it is not about deserving. It is about frequency. Life is not denying you. It is teaching you to feel differently. to vibrate with more presence, with more truth, with more consistency, because the universe can only deliver what you sustain vibrationally, not for seconds, not for minutes, but as an internal state, as a silent identity, as a natural presence. It's like trying to tune into a radio station. No matter how much you want to hear a specific song, if the dial is in the wrong place, all you'll hear is noise. And that's the noise most of us are emitting, without realizing it. A noise made of anxiety, doubt, control. And that noise neutralizes desire. Desiring is the beginning, but it's not enough. You have to live the desire with your body. You have to breathe like someone who has already received. Walk like someone who already is. Feel like someone who already belongs. Because only then will the vibration change. Only then will the field respond. It's not about wanting more. It's about feeling better, feeling more authentically, feeling more self-love, feeling more quiet confidence. And that feeling, when it's real, begins to shape your reality effortlessly. Because the universe cannot resist the frequency of vibrational truth. It just responds. The neuroscience of financial self-deception. There's a part of you that wants to prosper. It dreams, it plans, it visualizes. But there is another part, older and quieter, that is afraid. Afraid of leaving the familiar. Afraid of losing the little it has. Afraid of being rejected if it grows too much. And it is this part that, without realizing it, controls its frequency. The human brain was shaped to protect, not to thrive. It prefers repetition to expansion. It prefers the familiar to the unknown. And when you start thinking about new financial levels, new opportunities, new realities, the brain, conditioned to scarcity, activates alerts, danger signals, triggers for self-sabotage. It says, this is risky, this is not for you, this will go wrong. And you believe it. You believe it because these voices are not external. They speak from within. They use your language, your fears, your memories. And that is why they seem true. But they are just echoes of old programming. Voices inherited from childhood, from culture, from experiences that taught you that abundance is unstable, is difficult, is something only a few have. Neuroscience shows that the brain creates neural pathways based on emotional repetition. If for many years you lived in struggle, worry, and insecurity, the brain recorded this as normal, as safe, as a comfort zone. And now, even when you try to grow, this part of you resists, sabotages, procrastinates, or creates crises at the moment when things start to flow. This is financial self-deception, wanting one thing and acting, vibrating, choosing the opposite. And not out of bad faith, but out of conditioning, for protection, because of a neural system that has not yet understood that it is safe to prosper, that it is safe to receive, that it is safe to live in abundance. And here is the most delicate point. It is not enough to decide to change. You need to reprogram. You need to create new emotional experiences that inform the brain that you are now on a different frequency, that you no longer need to survive, that there is now space to flow, to trust, to expand. This process is more emotional than rational, because the brain does not change with arguments. It changes with sensation, with experience, with vibrational repetition. That's why it's no use just understanding this intellectually. You have to feel it. Feel safe when you receive it. Feel worthy of thriving. Feel that it's okay to grow. When the brain starts to associate prosperity with security, lightness, and love, it stops sabotaging. It starts to cooperate. It starts to create new paths. And then life starts to respond differently. Not because everything has changed outside, but because something has realigned inside. Self-deception only disappears when you look at your own blockages with compassion and decide, consciously, to create a new space within yourself. A space where thriving is not a threat. It's a right. It's part of your path. It's a natural extension of who you already are. When discipline becomes sabotage, the cycle of empty productivity. You wake up early. You plan your day. You cross off tasks, answer messages, stay busy the whole time. And in the end, you still feel like you haven't made any progress. That you're tired, but stuck. That produces, but does not prosper. This is the silent pain of those who live trapped in the cycle of empty productivity. The world applauds those who make an effort, those who keep moving, those who show results. But almost no one teaches that excessive action without internal alignment can actually be a form of escape. Escape from oneself, escape from silence, escape from the deep listening that reveals the truth behind the rush. When discipline is born from scarcity, it becomes rigidity, it becomes demand, it becomes punishment. You don't work with joy, you work with fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being left behind, fear of failure. And this fear disguises itself as efficiency, as focus, as commitment. But deep down, you know, there is something disconnected. Empty productivity is the kind that takes up your time, but not your soul. It produces numbers, but not evolution. It consumes energy, but does not generate expansion. And the most dangerous thing is that it seems noble. It seems necessary. But in truth, it is distancing you from the vibration that manifests abundance, because prosperity does not respond to the quantity of things you do. It responds to the quality of your inner state while you do them. You can spend the whole day busy and still vibrate lack, vibrate demand, vibrate desperation for results. And the universe feels this. It feels that you're trying to force a flow that should be born from alignment. There is a difference between sacred discipline and compensatory discipline. Sacred discipline is born from connection, from presence, from clear intention. Compensation is born from fear, from comparison, from the feeling that you need to prove something to be worthy of receiving. And that last one, it exhausts you. You are not here to prove your worth through effort. You are here to remember that value already exists. That true action is born from a place of peace, not desperation. That doing needs to be a consequence of being, and not an attempt to deserve what is already yours by vibrational nature. If you are feeling trapped in this cycle of doing a lot and achieving little, maybe it is time to stop, not to give up, but to listen to what is behind the rush, to listen to the pain that hides in productivity, to listen to the inner child who learned one day that he would only be loved if he was useful. Because when you start acting based on love and not urgency, everything changes. Discipline still exists, but it no longer imprisons you. It frees you, because now it comes from truth and not from the attempt to compensate for pain. And in this place, productivity ceases to be empty, and it becomes a seed. The invisible belief that keeps you stuck in the almost. It almost worked. You almost succeeded. You almost got there. And this almost, repeated too many times, begins to create a new identity, that of someone who tries, dreams, dedicates themselves, but always bumps into something invisible that prevents them from crossing the finish line. This something is not outside, it is inside, and it has to do with a subtle but powerful belief that complete success is not for you. It is a belief that does not shout. It whispers. It whispers that something will go wrong, that it will not last, that you will lose, that you are not enough to sustain the life you desire. And these whispers shape your vibration, even if you do not realize it. They keep your frequency anchored in the almost good, in the almost free, in the almost happy. This belief often arises from repeated experiences where something was interrupted, where hope was frustrated, where the cycle was broken before it blossomed, and the brain has learned to protect itself from trauma by avoiding the outcome, by avoiding the peak, because reaching the peak means, unconsciously, running the risk of losing everything again. So you get used to living on the edge of achievement, close enough to believe you are on the right path, but never deep enough to feel the fulfillment. And this, over time, becomes a vibrational prison, a pattern of almost life. The most curious thing is that the mind finds logical explanations for this. It creates justifications, rationalizes delays, blames external factors, but the field does not respond to logic. It responds to vibration, and the vibration of almost is loaded with fear. Fear of success, fear of responsibility, fear of becoming someone different and, perhaps, no longer being loved, recognized, accepted. Almost is a sophisticated form of sabotage, because it seems like progress, but it is resistance. It seems like growth, but it is stagnation in disguise. And breaking out of this cycle does not require more effort. It requires more truth, more presence, more courage to look at what still makes you feel like you don't deserve to live a completely good, completely prosperous, completely fulfilled life. As long as you accept the almost as natural, life will continue to offer incomplete versions of your dreams. Not out of malice, but out of vibrational coherence. Because reality always echoes what you most deeply believe about yourself. And the invitation here is different. It is to remember that you did not come to live in the almost. You came to experience the whole, the overflowing, the real. And this begins when you recognize the belief that still holds you back and decide, with compassion, to rewrite it, not to prove that you can, but to allow life to finally flow without interruptions, without sabotage, without halves, only with the wholeness of someone who recognizes themselves as worthy now. How your financial identity was programmed in childhood and still controls you. You did not begin your financial journey when you received your first salary. It began much earlier. It began when you were still little and saw, felt, absorbed the emotional climate of the house where you grew up, the way they talked about money, the emotions that accompanied the bills, the fears, the comments between adults. All of this was recorded, not as information, but as programming. The child you were did not understand economics, but understood energy. She felt when there was tension in the house because of money. She could feel when the silence was filled with concern, when a gift was accompanied by guilt, when the desire for something was quickly interrupted by phrases like, "That's expensive," "We can't afford it," "Money doesn't grow on trees." And without realizing it, she created associations, deep, emotional, invisible associations. Money became synonymous with difficulty, with struggle, with limitation, with absence, or in some cases, with control, with power, with coldness. And these associations formed the basis of her financial identity, a silent basis that to this day influences her choices, her limits, her fears, her desires. You may have grown up, you may have studied, you may have even changed cities, social circles, professions. But if this identity has not been healed, it remains active. It still dictates how far you can go. It still defines what you consider possible. It still limits how much you allow yourself to receive, spend, invest, expand. This programming is not rational. It is vibrational. It is in the body, in the way your nervous system reacts when you think about earning more, investing in yourself, taking on a new level of life. Often, your body goes into alert mode, feeling uncomfortable, questioning yourself, and you back off. You back off not because you want to, but because something inside you is still stuck in a past that is no longer yours, but that you carry as if it were. Recognizing this is not about blaming yourself. It is about freeing yourself, because by bringing these memories, these beliefs, these conditionings to light, you create space for a new, vibrational identity, one that is not born of scarcity, but of conscious choice. One that does not carry the traumas of those who came before, but honors your history by creating a new chapter. You do not need to continue reproducing the financial fears that you absorbed in childhood. You can transform them with presence, with compassion, with intention, because true financial freedom does not begin at the bank. It begins within. It begins when you decide to rewrite what money means to you, not based on what you have heard, but based on what you want to experience from now on. And when this new identity begins to form, everything changes. Opportunities change, choices change, the universe's responses change. Because now you are vibrating as someone who not only wants to prosper, but as someone who recognizes themselves as a natural channel of abundance. Without guilt, without fear, without carrying a past that no longer needs to control your present. The spiritual factor ignored by those who focus only on goals and productivity. The search for goals, results, achievements may seem noble, and often it is. But when this search is driven only by the rational mind, by excessive planning, by the attempt to control, it disconnects from the soul. And a life disconnected from the soul does not flow. You can achieve goals. You can hit targets. You can achieve what is on paper. But if your spirit is tired, if your heart is absent, if your vibration is misaligned, everything will seem empty. And sooner or later, you will feel that something is missing, that, despite the results, there is a silence inside you asking for reconnection. The spiritual factor is the forgotten part by those who believe that only discipline moves life, by those who see time as an enemy and productivity as identity. But the spirit has another rhythm. It does not operate in urgency. It operates in truth, in presence, in coherence between action and essence. When you ignore this dimension, you end up building achievements that do not sustain peace. You end up arriving in places that do not touch your soul. You end up getting lost on a road that, on the outside, seems successful, but on the inside is dry. And that is where many become frustrated, because they did everything right, but still feel empty. And the reason lies in the disconnection. The spirit is not against matter. It is not against money. It is not against goals. It is the field where all of this aligns, where everything makes sense, where motivation comes from within and not from comparison, where goals are not used to prove your worth, but to express your light. Denying the spiritual is like trying to plant in fertile soil, but without sunlight. The seeds are there, the soil is prepared, but the vital energy that activates growth is missing. And this energy is your connection with something greater, with the invisible, with the frequency that transcends numbers, deadlines, and results. There is a silent force guiding the movements of life. And when you connect to it, everything changes tone. Decisions become lighter, actions more intentional, achievements more meaningful. Because now it is not just you trying to make things work. It is you flowing with the greater intelligence that already knows the way. Ignoring this factor is living tired. Connecting to it is living inspired. Inspired not in the superficial sense of the word, but in the deepest sense, being in spirit, breathing life with purpose, walking with a peaceful heart, and manifesting with the body what the soul already vibrates. This is practical spirituality. It is not about dogmas. It is not about religion. It is about presence, about vibrational truth, about remembering that you did not come just to conquer things. You came to align with who you really are. And when that happens, abundance stops being a destiny. It becomes the natural reflection of your connection with the whole. The trap of a vibrational comparison. You are doing well. You are evolving little by little. You begin to notice small changes, new thoughts, new feelings. But then all you have to do is look to the side at someone who seems to be more advanced, more resolved, more prosperous, and everything falls apart inside. The feeling of being behind arises, of insufficiency, of doing something wrong. And without realizing it, your vibration becomes contaminated. Comparing yourself is human, but when comparison becomes a habit, it becomes a subtle poison, a frequency saboteur, because it disconnects you from your timeline. It distances you from your truth. It makes you forget that each soul has a rhythm, a purpose, a path. And when you get out of your axis to try to keep up with someone else, you lose the coherence that sustains manifestation. Vibrational comparison is treacherous because it happens silently. Sometimes you don't even notice. You just feel your energy drop. You feel your heart tighten. You feel that something has shifted. And this shift takes you away from your point of power, the now, your now, the only place where you can truly change, grow, manifest. The problem is not admiring others. The problem is using others' trajectory as a yardstick to measure your own worth, because this generates guilt, haste, desperation to compensate. And every manifestation that arises from this energy is loaded with distortion, with noise, with future frustration. Each person manifests based on the frequency they can sustain with truth. And you don't know what the other person is feeling, facing, vibrating. You see results, but you don't see internal processes. You see achievements, but you don't see the pain, the fears, the blockages that still inhabit that reality. And even if you did, it doesn't matter, because your field only responds to your energy. Comparison distracts you. It disconnects you from what is essential, cultivating your own frequency with honesty, loving your own rhythm. Respect the time your soul needs to integrate each step, because it's not about getting there faster, it's about getting there whole. And the more you align with your own journey, the lighter you feel. Because for the universe, there is no such thing as wasted time. There is only presence or absence, and every time you leave yourself to live in someone else's vibrational field, you weaken yourself. The cure for comparison is vibrational acceptance. It's welcoming your now with kindness. It's looking at yourself with the same love you project onto others, because only then do you become presence. And presence is magnetism. It's silent power. It's the field where things start to move effortlessly. Comparing yourself is forgetting. Aligning yourself is remembering. Remembering that you are already where you need to be to take the next step with truth. And the next step is always within, because everything you seek starts with you. The hidden cycle of frustrated self-help. You consume content. You watch videos. You read books. You feel that brief hope, that spark of change. But after a few days, everything seems the same. Life goes back to the same place. And you start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? No, there is nothing wrong with you. What is happening is a silent phenomenon, increasingly common, the cycle of frustrated self-help, the repetition of inspiring stimuli that do not generate real transformation because they are not integrated into the body, the field, the vibration. It is like drinking water and not digesting it, like listening to a song without allowing it to enter, like watching the sunset in a hurry. The wisdom is there, but it does not penetrate because the mind is conditioned to seek quick answers, and the soul does not transform in a hurry. It needs presence, maturity, silence, emotional experience. This cycle is cruel because it creates an illusion of movement. The person feels that they are evolving because they are learning, but learning is not the same as changing. The field does not respond to what you understand. It responds to what you incorporate, to what you feel as truth, to what you experience in your daily life, in small gestures, in silent decisions. And when this content is consumed without internal space, without pause, without ritual, it becomes noise. It becomes spiritual distraction. It becomes yet another attempt to save oneself through the mind, when in fact, the cure has always been through the body, through frequency, through presence. Many experience this frustration and think about giving up. They give up on the content, the practice, the spirituality, when, in fact, it is not the message that failed. It was the lack of internal space to receive it. Because transforming oneself is not about accumulating ideas. It is about dissolving old vibrations. It is about making room in the field for something new to flourish. Transformation doesn't happen the moment you hear something beautiful. It happens the moment that truth becomes part of who you are, part of your breathing, part of your choices, part of the way you vibrate when no one is watching. That's why the path is not to consume more. It's to live better what has already reached you. It's to be silent after listening. It's to digest before looking for the next video. It's to stop chasing new words and start walking more deeply within the words that have already touched your soul. True help has never been external. It has always been within. The content can ignite, but it's you who needs to keep the flame going, not with effort, but with presence, not with demands, but with vibrational commitment, because only then does knowledge stop being information and become transformation. The phantom frequency metaphor. Sometimes everything seems to be in place. You have clear goals. You're doing the right things. You're saying the right words. You're following what you've learned. But inside, something doesn't vibrate together, and you feel, even without explaining it, that you are not really present in that reality that you desire so much. It is as if you were walking, but on another frequency. This is the phantom frequency, a vibrational state where you seem aligned, but in fact, you are vibrating outside of what you think you are creating. It is like a ghost that imitates your movements, but carries another energy. And the universe, which responds to what you vibrate, does not see what you think. It sees what is really being emitted. This phenomenon occurs when doing is not accompanied by feeling. When you say, "I trust," but your body is tense. When you affirm, "I deserve," but your energy is still shrinking. When you visualize success, but inside, you still carry fear of failure. It is a subtle disconnection, but deep. And the most challenging thing is that this is not easy to perceive, because the mind wants to believe that it is on the path. It clings to rituals, practices, affirmations, but the field does not respond to isolated intention. It responds to the integral state of your being. And if there is inconsistency, the flow stops. The phantom frequency is the result of an identity that has not yet been updated. You say you want a new life, but you relate to situations as you did before. You react as you did before. You feel as you felt before. In other words, your vibration has not changed. Only the surface has changed. And the surface without vibration is an illusion. It takes courage to acknowledge this, courage to stop pretending to yourself, courage to let go of the spiritualized persona and enter the realm of truth. Because it is emotional truth, even imperfect ones, that creates access to reality, not behavioral perfection, not the aesthetics of spirituality. The frequency only changes when you allow yourself to dive in, when you look deeply into yourself and embrace everything that still resists, everything that still scares you, everything that is still trapped in old pains, because vibration is not transformed by ready-made phrases. It is transformed by true presence. The phantom frequency dissolves when you stop trying to appear and start to truly be, even if that means feeling uncomfortable things for a while, because it is in discomfort that truth emerges, and it is in truth that vibration aligns. When you begin to vibrate with authenticity, the universe notices and responds, because now you are no longer a ghost repeating movements. You are you, whole, present, real, vibrating with truth. And truth is magnetic. The mistake of seeking wealth to cure your lack of self-worth. There is a legitimate desire for prosperity, for financial freedom, for a life where you can breathe without fear of tomorrow. But often, behind this desire, there is an unrecognized pain, an emotional wound that screams, "If I had more, maybe I would finally feel enough." This is a deep trap, because it turns money into an anesthetic. It turns achievement into escape, and it creates an illusory expectation that wealth will cure the lack of self-love, that success will erase the feeling of inadequacy, that recognition will resolve the feeling of being unworthy. But money does not have this power. It can expand experiences, offer comfort, open doors, but it does not heal what has been silenced inside. And that is why so many people, even after reaching certain levels of prosperity, continue to feel empty. They continue to seek more, run more, hoping that the next achievement will finally bring peace. But it never comes, because peace is not born from external abundance. It is born from internal reconciliation, from healing the relationship you have with yourself, from the way you look at yourself when you make a mistake, from the way you treat yourself when you fail, from the inner voice you choose to feed when no one is watching. Seeking wealth to fill a hole in your personal value is like trying to build a house on sand. The structure may stand, but it won't hold because the foundation is unstable, and at any sign of challenge, everything shakes. Everything threatens to collapse. True prosperity begins when you stop seeking approval through what you achieve and start building an identity that loves itself even in silence, even without applause, even without external validation, because only this foundation is solid enough to sustain the abundance you desire. Money should not be a cure, it should be a consequence of a frequency that has already understood its own value, that is not defined by bank balance, that is not measured by productivity, that is not lost in comparison. When you recognize your value before achievement, everything changes, because now you don't act to prove yourself, you act to express yourself. Express who you are, express what you believe, express the light that already exists within you. And the universe feels this. It feels when your action comes from plenitude and not from lack, and it responds, because abundance loves those who already love themselves, not because of merit, but because of vibrational coherence. Healing is not about having more, it is about being more true to what you already are, and this being is what paves the way for receiving. Daily vibrational reset technique. It is not always what you do that defines your day, it is the field with which you begin, the vibration with which you wake up, the internal state that guides your choices. And many times this field is already loaded before you even open your eyes. Loaded with the emotional remains of the previous day, with the noises of the world, with the fears that sleep with you. That is why, more important than any planning, is the return to the center, a simple, silent moment where you decide to restart, to cleanse, re-choose, a vibrational reset, not as an obligation, but as a gesture of presence, of energetic self-care, of conscious preparation for what is to come. This reset doesn't take hours. It takes truth. It takes pause. It takes you to stop running for a moment, to remember who you are, to return to your body, to feel what is vibrating inside you before you start distributing that frequency throughout the world. Imagine your vibrational field as an instrument. If it is out of tune, everything you play will sound strange, even if the melody is beautiful. The reset is the daily tuning. It is the moment when you decide not to continue carrying tension, anger, fear, comparison, and haste. It is where you let go, where you realign. Breathe consciously for a few minutes. Be grateful before complaining. Be silent before reacting. These small gestures have power because they change the basis of the day. They break the automatic pattern. They say to the universe, "Today I choose to be present." This daily reset does not require perfection. It requires intention. Even if everything around you seems messy, even if your heart is confused, even if nothing feels right, if you pause, breathe, and align yourself internally, something changes, something opens. And that small vibrational shift can change your entire day. You are not here to live on autopilot. You are here to remember that you have a choice, that you can start over as many times as necessary, that no matter what happened yesterday, your frequency now is what determines your field of manifestation. The vibrational reset is a daily reminder that you are more than your circumstances. It is a choice of consciousness, of presence, of reconnecting with the version of you that does not act out of fear, but out of coherence, that does not look outside, but starts within. And when this habit becomes sacred, life begins to reorganize itself, because you stop reacting to the world and begin to create from your center, from your cleanest vibration, your truest, your most personal. The real meaning of the phrase, "thoughts are things." This phrase has crossed generations. It is in books, lectures, videos, walls, and notebooks. But what few really understand is the vibrational depth it carries. Thoughts are things, not ideas, not abstractions. Things, subtle matter, energy in form, vibration that builds. Napoleon Hill did not speak of thought only as reasoning. He spoke of thought as vibrational creation, as the invisible beginning of every visible manifestation. He spoke of mental state as the first form that precedes form. And when you understand this, everything changes. Thinking is not just imagining. Thinking is emitting. Thinking is sowing in the field. Thinking, when accompanied by coherent emotion, by aligned intention, is a force of creation as real as physical action. But this thought needs to be alive. It needs to be sustained by feeling, by truth, by presence. The problem is that many believe that thinking about something for a few seconds will be enough. But the field does not respond to flashes of desire. It responds to vibrational consistency. It responds to what is repeated with faith, with surrender, with identity. Thought, in order to become a thing, needs an emotional foundation. It needs internal alignment. Thinking about abundance while feeling fear is creating conflict. Thinking about success while feeling guilty is sending opposite signals. Thinking about love while repelling one's own vulnerability is keeping the door closed, not out of punishment, but out of incoherence. Thought creates when it is whole, when it vibrates as truth, when it is not fighting with feelings, when it is not contradicting the body, when it is not trying to force a reality without respecting the soul's time. The mind alone does not manifest. It initiates, it designs, but it is the emotional field that gives form. It is the body that transmits. It is the spirit that sustains. It is the coherence between the three that generates the thing. That transforms thought into reality. And this reality does not come just to confirm that you can. It comes to mirror what you already are, what you allowed yourself to be vibrationally before any external evidence appeared. Thought is the mold, vibration is the material, and manifestation is the reflection. Therefore, more than thinking correctly, you need to think with your soul, with depth, with dedication. You need to cultivate thoughts that are not only positive, but that are coherent with your essence, with what you truly want to live. When this happens, the thought stops being just an inspiring phrase, and it becomes strength, it becomes matter, it becomes a bridge between the invisible and what you call life. Because in fact, thoughts are things, and you are the field where they take shape. True story, the businessman who destroyed his business by trying to vibrate success by force. He had a clear idea, a solid plan. He knew the market. He was smart, dedicated, resilient. But even with all this, something wasn't flowing. Sales started well, but soon stagnated. Promising partnerships fell apart. The environment, once vibrant, became heavy. And he didn't understand, because on the surface, he was doing everything right. So he started consuming content about frequency, about prosperity, about the power of the mind. And there he found hope. He decided to dive in. He repeated mantras, visualized every day, put affirmations on the walls. He said to himself, "I am vibrating success." But inside, he felt fear. He felt exhausted. He felt doubt. And it was this mismatch that destroyed his business. Not the lack of knowledge, not the market, not the management errors, but the imbalance between what he said he was vibrating and what he really felt, because the universe does not respond to solitary intention. It responds to coherent vibration, and his was out of sync. What he was doing was trying to force an energy that was not true. He tried to dress up the frequency of success as if it were a fantasy, as if he could deceive the field with pretty words while his heart trembled inside. But the field feels. The field sees. The field responds to what is real. Failure did not come as punishment. It came as a revelation that it is not about appearing vibrationally high. It is about truly becoming someone capable of sustaining the energy that one wishes to manifest. And this does not happen with ready-made phrases. It happens with presence, with internal confrontation, with transformation of unconscious patterns. He understood, with pain, that it is not enough to affirm prosperity if the mind still carries the fear of failure. There is no point in saying that you trust if your body still reacts with tension at the slightest sign of challenge. That true vibration is not created with effort. It reveals itself when the being is at peace. After the collapse, he started again, but this time, more slowly, more whole. He learned to listen to his own field, to respect the cycles, to allow the new identity to form from the inside out. And little by little, life responded. Not with immediate applause, but with vibrational coherence. This story is not about failure. It is about lucidity, about understanding that vibrating success is not about forcing yourself to be well. It is about being so aligned with yourself that success becomes a reflection and not a mask. It is about allowing the external to simply reflect the internal truth, and not the anxiety of being someone who is not yet vibrationally sustainable. Because the right frequency is not the highest. It is the most authentic. And the most powerful manifestation arises when you are not trying to convince the universe, but when you are simply being someone who has already won inside, even before any result, even in the silence of the invisible, the unresolved trauma that sabotages your bank account. Many people think that their financial difficulties come from a lack of opportunity, mistakes made, or poorly calculated decisions. But in many cases, what really prevents prosperity is an unresolved trauma, an old pain, an intense emotional experience that has been stored in the body, in the field, in the unconscious. Traumas are not just big events. They are also silences, subtle rejections, feelings of abandonment, humiliations that no one saw. They are moments when you learned, even without words, that the world was not safe, that you were not enough, that it was dangerous to trust, to receive, to expose yourself. And when this pain is not seen, it becomes a pattern that is not in your visible behavior, but in your vibration, a protective field that, instead of protecting, sabotages, because it makes you retreat from opportunities. It makes you avoid healthy risks. It makes you doubt yourself when you need to believe the most. Financial trauma does not only show itself in overdue bills, it shows up in impulsive decisions, in fear of charging for your work, in shame of growing, in difficulty in maintaining what you have achieved, in the feeling that it is wrong to want more. This field, when not healed, creates an invisible ceiling, a vibrational limit that you cannot overcome. No matter how much you study, how much you try, how much you wish, something always pulls you back. It always sabotages you in the end. And not because of bad luck, but because your system understands, even today, that growing too much is dangerous, that shining too much is risky, that having too much is a reason to be rejected, criticized, or abandoned. Healing this trauma does not mean forgetting what happened. It is embracing the part of you that still lives in that pain. It is allowing it to express itself, to cry, to be heard. It is giving new meaning to what has been frozen in time. When this happens, something is unlocked because the body stops resisting, the field stops emitting alarms, and money, which previously found itself in a closed vibrational door, now finds an opening. It finds space. It finds shelter. Unhealed trauma blocks prosperity because the system believes that receiving is a threat, that expanding is a risk. But when you heal, you release the flow, you release the energy, you release the permission to live a new reality without fear of the past repeating itself. And that is when life begins to respond, not with magic, but with coherence. Because now it is no longer the trauma that is in control. It is your presence. It is your consciousness. It is your choice not to allow an old pain to continue to decide your present. Prosperity begins when your frequency aligns with the truth of who you are now, not with the pain of who you were. And this truth is liberating. Why are you still trying to earn what should be natural? From a very young age, you were taught that you had to earn it, that nothing would come for free, that you had to fight, sacrifice, prove yourself. And this idea, repeated for generations, became an invisible structure in your field. The belief that you need to conquer everything with sweat and pain, so that perhaps you will be worthy of receiving it. But abundance doesn't work that way. It doesn't respond to how much effort you put in. It responds to how much you allow yourself to. And most people still live trapped in a logic of effort as a bargaining chip, as if the universe could only deliver what you want after seeing you exhausted, after measuring your pain, after you have punished yourself enough. This illusion is one of the biggest energetic obstacles because it puts you in a constant, insatiable search for recognition, for validation, for a type of love that only comes when you overcome yourself, when you suffer, when you go beyond all limits. And yet, deep down, you still feel like you're not enough. Deserving something is born from an identity that doesn't recognize itself as valuable in and of itself, that still carries guilt, shame, fear of being rejected, that believes it needs to compensate for its existence with results, with productivity, with perfection. And that's tiring. It tires the body, it tires the soul, it tires the heart that deep down just wanted to be accepted as it is. It just wanted to live lightly. It just wanted to flow with life without feeling like it needs to carry the world on its shoulders to be allowed to be happy. True abundance doesn't come to those who suffer the most. It comes to those who align themselves the most, to those who vibrate with the most truth, to those who open themselves to receive with gratitude, not with guilt, with awareness, not with fear, with freedom, not with heaviness. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to deserve it. You already are. You already carry within you the vibrational field capable of manifesting everything you desire. What's missing is not effort. It's permission. It's rest. It is the recognition that life does not require suffering to flourish. When you let go of this need to compensate, to justify, to control, something changes, because the field understands that you are now ready to receive, without resistance, without self-judgment, without the weight of forced deserving. And then the flow opens. Because the universe does not want you to destroy yourself in order to live well. It wants you to remember that you are worthy, always. That everything you seek outside already begins when you allow yourself to be who you are. No more battles, no more masks, only with the lightness of someone who recognizes themselves as a child of abundance and chooses, finally, to live from that place. When hope becomes a dangerous vibrational addiction, hope is beautiful. It sustains. It lights in the dark. It reminds us that something better is possible, even when everything seems stagnant. But when misunderstood, hope becomes a veil that postpones decisions, that postpones movements, that intoxicates the soul with constant expectation, without real action. This is the vibrational addiction of hope, a state in which you wait so long for a sign, for a miracle, for an ideal time, that you end up forgetting to live, forgetting to act, forgetting to listen to what the present is asking for. And this addiction is not true hope. It is a disguised form of escape, because by clinging too much to what is to come, you weaken your presence. You transfer your strength to the future, and this vibrational shift makes the present empty, without energy, without clarity, without the power to manifest. Healthy hope inspires the step. Toxic hope postpones it. One drives, the other paralyzes. And what differentiates the two is not the content of the expectation. It is your vibrational stance towards it. You can wait with active faith, with real dedication, with aligned intention. Or you can wait with anxiety, with passivity, with a faith that has become an excuse for not moving. Often, this waiting disguised as spirituality feeds on the idea that the universe will solve it. And yes, the universe is always in motion, but it responds to your vibration. And when your vibration is frozen in expectation, it finds no room to act. The problem is not in having hope. The problem is in forgetting to live the now as the seed of what you hope for, in forgetting to be today the energy of what you wish to receive tomorrow. Because the future is not created by waiting. It is created by presence, with vibration, with coherent internal action. When hope is true, it walks with you. It does not paralyze you. It does not infantilize you. It does not deceive you. It anchors you. It inspires you. It connects you with a force that does not depend on time, but on your willingness to align yourself with what you can already feel, even if it is not yet visible. Letting go of the addiction to hope is not losing faith. It is activating it. It is remembering that faith is not about passively waiting. It is about inhabiting the present with such completeness that the future already begins to take shape now. And when you do that, something changes, because the vibration stops being one of waiting and becomes one of creation. And that's when the flow opens up, because the universe responds to those who don't just dream, but who are already vibrating as if what they desire was already alive within them, even before it manifests, even in silence, even in uncertainty, with presence, with truth, with faith embodied in the now, the invisible bridge between deep gratitude and financial liberation. There is a frequency that few truly understand, a silent but extremely powerful energy that acts as a vibrational key to release the flow of abundance. This frequency is gratitude, but not the superficial memorized gratitude said out of habit. It is real gratitude, felt, rooted, the one that springs forth even when circumstances have not yet changed. Most people condition gratitude to results. I will be grateful when I achieve it. I will be grateful when I improve. I will be grateful when everything is in place. But this conditioning creates a delay, because gratitude should not be a consequence. It needs to be a starting point. It is the bridge, the vibrational transition between what you have and what you want to release. True gratitude does not require that everything be fine. It recognizes the value of the now, even when the now still carries pain, emptiness, or silence. It is a vibration that says, even without evidence, I choose to trust. Even without guarantee, I choose to acknowledge. And this choice changes everything. When you vibrate true gratitude, the field opens, because the universe understands that you are already vibrating as someone who has, as someone who recognizes, as someone who trusts, and this vibration is irresistible. It is a sign of spiritual maturity, that you no longer depend on the external to be at peace within. Gratitude, at this level, dissolves resistance. It calms the nervous system. It undoes the waiting pattern. It breaks the cycle of demand and activates the energy of permission, because only those who allow themselves truly receive. And only those who feel blessed, even in silence, allow themselves. This invisible bridge is formed when you begin to be grateful, not for what you do not yet have, but for who you are becoming, for being here, now, for listening, for being aware. Because this awareness in itself is already abundance. And by vibrating gratitude before receiving, you create a field of sacred anticipation. You are saying, I already feel the blessing, even before it manifests. And it is this feeling that moves the invisible, that releases what was blocked, that dissolves what was trapped. Abundance does not respond to haste. It responds to the vibration of those who already recognize the value of what they have. And the more you vibrate deep gratitude, the more you align yourself with the energy of life, because life, in its essence, is generous. But it reveals itself with greater strength to those who know how to be grateful, even when it still seems little. In this space, money is no longer sought after with desperation. It is received with ease, with honor, with coherence, because now the field is ready and the heart at peace. Gratitude is this point where everything begins to change, without anything having changed yet. And when this point is truly reached, the rest comes, because you have already become, and whoever becomes, receives. Mental model to align action and vibration. There is a powerful force in the world of manifestation that does not depend on excessive effort or empty repetitions. This force is born from the alignment between what you do and what you vibrate. When action and vibration are separated, the path becomes heavy. When they are together, reality begins to transform with ease. The problem is that action is often born from fear, from I need to do something before everything falls apart, or from obligation. If I don't move, nothing will change. This action, although it seems productive, is disconnected from the real vibration. It is anchored in scarcity, in urgency, in doubt. On the other hand, there are those who try to remain only in the vibrational field, visualizing, affirming, waiting to feel ready, but without translating this internal state into concrete actions, without moving the body, without offering the field a visible gesture of trust. The mental model that aligns action and vibration does not live in these extremes. It inhabits the middle, a space where feeling guides action, where each step taken in the external world is already imbued with a coherent frequency in the internal world. This is where manifestation happens. This model begins with the simplest and most powerful question: what would I do today if I were already who I want to be? This question dissolves doubt. It breaks with the old pattern of acting for survival and invites a new vibrational posture, acting as an expression of who you are already becoming. Acting from the right vibration is different from acting to obtain something. When you vibrate with clarity, with confidence, with presence, your action becomes a natural extension of your field. It is no longer an attempt to fix the world. It is a response to what your energy is already creating. In this model, each decision carries intention. Each movement is imbued with meaning. And even the small tasks of daily life begin to take on a different texture. Because now you are no longer seeking results. You are expressing alignment. And the universe understands this language because it is not how much you do that activates the field. It is the frequency with which you do it. A small action, done with aligned energy, can move more reality than 100 steps taken under stress. So, before you act, breathe, feel, ask yourself, is this decision coming from fear or from confidence? Is this choice born from lack or from the abundance I already feel within me? And then, act. With simplicity, with truth, with the vibration that sustains what you want to experience. Aligning action and vibration is not a formula. It is presence. It is awareness. It is allowing doing not to contradict being. And in this alignment, reality begins to reflect who you have become. Because now you are not just trying to change your life. You are being, with each step, the change you want to manifest. What do spiritual millionaires do differently? They live from the inside out. They do not wait for someday, for when I have it, for if that happens. They already operate in the reality they wish to create. They vibrate wealth before any evidence. They act with generosity, presence, and emotional firmness. Prosperity for them is a state, not a balance. They may seem few, it is true, but they use a clear frequency, that of someone who is already aligned with abundance. Decisions are born from this place. Words come from this place. Values are rooted in this place. And this makes wealth a natural effect, not a desperate search. They do not confuse wealth with ego. They do not seek status, fame, or constant validation. They seek coherence. They seek to serve. They seek to express. They seek to flow. They know that prosperity is a sustained vibrational attitude, not a stressed result. And that is why they prosper, because they follow a path where the internal field and external reality converse gently, where each action carries a frequency of life, where each choice is aligned with the truth of who they already are. And the universe responds energetically to this clarity. Wealth does not respond to effort, but to identity. You have come this far, and that is, in itself, a sign that you are ready to cross over. Cross the veil of vibrational scarcity, cross inherited patterns, cross the limits that your unconscious has learned to respect but that no longer make sense for who you are becoming. Everything we have said throughout these hours now returns to an essential point. You are not broken for lack of effort. You are disconnected from the vibrational identity of abundance, because it is not how much you work that defines how much you receive. It is how much you recognize yourself internally as someone who already vibrates at the frequency of what you desire. Napoleon Hill said, "The human mind, when properly trained, is capable of transmuting desire into reality. And this transmutation does not happen in a hurry. It happens in presence, in vibrational repetition, in welcoming every part of you that still doubts, that still hesitates, that still feels apart from the flow of life." Neville Goddard reminds us, assume the desired state as real now, because manifestation does not begin when something happens. It begins when you become, when you vibrate, when you stop waiting for signs and start being the sign, when you silence the when and dive into the it already is. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are energetically when no one is looking. You attract from your intimate vibration, from your relationship with yourself, from your silent conversation with the invisible. And that is why now, more than looking for techniques, formulas, shortcuts, the invitation is different. It is about starting to vibrate the version of yourself that has already overcome this scarcity, not by force, but by consciousness, by accepting your abundant nature, by returning to your truth. True abundance does not begin with what you achieve. It begins with what you release, with what you heal, with what you choose to leave behind, to make room for the new. If something inside you was touched by this video, remember, this transformation has already begun. Because once consciousness awakens, it does not go back to sleep, and life, inevitably, begins to change. You are ready, because you already are, because you already vibrate, because somewhere inside you, this truth has always known the way, and now the universe is just waiting for your silent answer. Yes, I am ready to be who I was born to be.